Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for day three of our TalkAUTO conference. So today obviously marks the third day in a row of my attire being business on top and beachwear below the camera or desk level, which is again a unique way of presenting TalkAUTO this year. With us today, we're super excited to have Arianne Walker, who's the Chief Evangelist at Alexa Automotive for Amazon. We're really fortunate to have Arianne participating today. Just a couple of really quick housekeeping items. I want to make mention in the sidebar next to there's a handout section. And in that handout section, there are a couple of one-pager thought leadership pieces from two of our sponsors this year, Scotiabank and Simtech. So obviously, I also want to take a quick minute to just thank our other sponsors this year. So Arianne, if you could advance the your slide, perfect. So again, Simtech and Scotiabank, thanks very much. And again, their handouts are in that the handout section on the sidebar. I also want to thank BMO, Moto Insight, Safeguard, CIBC, LGM, as well as IA Dealer Services and IA Auto Finance. And with that said, I'll turn it right over to Arianne Walker. Arianne?
Great, thanks so much, JD. I did not get the memo though. I'm wearing real pants. Maybe I'll change for next time. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to speak with you all. I wish we were doing it in person, maybe next year. But super excited about talking about the future of voice in the vehicle. And I thought I would start this with a little bit of a view with some industry data. And what we've seen from Navigant Research is that they've actually projected that voice assistants will be embedded in nearly 90% of new vehicles sold globally by 2028. So lots of opportunity for people to integrate these voice assistants and for consumers to have the opportunity to interact with them. But to date, we've seen in the US alone, over half of adults have used a voice assistant in the car, according to VoiceBot AI research. And so we really have seen a lot of engagement and usage of voice assistants in the car. And this is, not just the more, shall we say, advanced voice assistants that use cloud connectivity and those kinds of things. But also, we know that there have been, voice in the car for a long time. And it makes a ton of sense because when you're in the vehicle, particularly if you're driving, you want to be able to keep your hands on the wheel and eyes on the road while continuing to be entertained and stay productive and do all the things that you can do at home, but you want to do it in a way where you can still pay attention to that drive. And so at Amazon, we really thought this was a great opportunity to bring Alexa into vehicles with all of the great technology around Alexa and usability around Alexa to make that experience in the car great. But like I said, these voice assistants that are connected to the cloud are not the first time that we've had voice in the car. In fact, we've actually had voice in the car for about 15 years now, but from a bunch of different J.D. Power studies, including specifically in Canada with the Canadian Initial Quality Study, even the new one coming out here in 2020, the top customer complaint among these new vehicle buyers year after year is that built-in voice recognition software. Every single year we see that come out, or J.D. Power sees that come out at the top. We've seen that, we've been following that. And so we wanted to really dig into that and understand the challenges that exist with that built-in voice recognition software across consumers. And so we actually worked with J.D. Power and conducted a study with over 5,000 consumers to understand those challenges and also understand what the expectations are for voice in the car, what consumers really want to have in the car. So I thought I'd share some of those results with you today. First, let's start with those challenges that we see with traditional voice recognition systems. J.D. Power actually gathered a ton of verbatims around this, right? Really got that voice of the customer. And what we heard in that those comments from the customers really fell into four key categories. The first set of challenges was really around the lack of features that were available with the traditional voice recognition system. And while not everybody in the study were Alexa users, certainly we did hear a number of comments about wanting to have all the features like Alexa or some of the other voice assistants out there. Because with the traditional voice recognition systems, this is really tends to be very limited and focused on car features exclusively. The second area of challenge is simply around how the usability often doesn't work the way consumers would like it to. So we saw comments about, that traditional voice recognition system doesn't understand me no matter how slow or normal I speak. It gets it wrong more often than gets it right. Just this level of frustration for people. And the last place you want people frustrated with voice is when they're in the car. The third area, there were a number of respondents that were able to articulate this very specific usability challenge, and that is around the fact that with traditional voice recognition systems, you have to say very specific things in a very specific order, using particular terms in many cases, in order to get that voice recognition system to understand you and do what you asked it to do. And so that is another real challenge that the consumers mentioned. And then the fourth area was around the fact that often the content that the voice recognition system had access to was outdated even before the customer took ownership of the vehicle, right? Wasn't up to date, hard to update that information in many cases. And so that was a challenge. So these four key areas of challenge are things that more advanced voice assistants that are connected to the cloud can actually start to really make a dent in, right? Where you can reach out and be able to connect with lots of different features. They use natural language understanding, so it's more conversational and less challenging in terms of the usability, and also is always up to date because they're connected to the cloud. And so the next step in this research was really to understand the experiences that people were having with the different types of integrations. And so JD Power actually asked satisfaction questions based on what type of experiences and integration that each of the respondents had actually had an opportunity to engage with. And we started with asking people about their experience with their in-home voice assistants as sort of a baseline, if you will. So you can see that over on the left, where that experience, and again, this is across the board with all of the different in-home voice assistants that are available today. And that experience achieved a satisfaction score of 7.43 on JD Power's standard 10-point scale. So this is, not a bad score, but also not a glowing, satisfaction score either. We want to be upfront about it. And I think this is for two key reasons. First and foremost, the voice industry as a whole still has a lot of work to do. We continue to work on it. Others in the space continue to work on it, like I said, to make the experience more natural, more conversational, those kinds of things. So, so there is still room certainly for improvement across the board. But the other thing is in the home, as these voice assistants have gotten more advanced and been able to do more things, those customer expectations continue to increase. So those two things together combined for that score that we see there, the 7.43. Now, let's compare that to the different types of experience in the car using a cloud-based voice assistant. So first there on the left with phone projection, that's where you have an app of some sort on your phone that you can then project into the infotainment system of the vehicle. That has an experience satisfaction score of just over 7, so not quite as good as the in-home experience. Then the next one there in the middle is when a consumer brings an aftermarket device into the vehicle to help bring the assistant into the car, the voice assistant into the car, connects it with the their mobile phone for the cloud connectivity. And now we see a satisfaction score with that experience that's right on par with the in-home experience with a score of 7.42. But then the best experience that we're seeing to date is that cloud-based built-in voice assistant that you see over there with a score of 8.08. So a pretty delightful experience, actually. And this is where that voice assistant is actually built into the infotainment system of the vehicle and is still connected to the cloud to be able to utilize all the power of the cloud. Now, you may be wondering why the discrepancy in these scores when, at least theoretically, right, these could be the same voice assistants in each of these scenarios. And the reason that we are seeing is because by being built into the infotainment system, you're actually able to remove some of the friction that you have with an aftermarket device or phone projection. You know, things like wires that you have to connect or having to connect that phone to Bluetooth, those kinds of things that can create some friction and reduce that overall satisfaction level. But of course, the biggest difference in scores and satisfaction scores that we see are between the two voice systems that are actually built into the car. The cloud-based built-in voice assistant with a score over an 8 compared to that traditional in-vehicle voice recognition software that has a satisfaction score under a 6. And that's where we heard all those challenges earlier. So by bringing these more advanced voice assistants into the cars, into vehicles, we're really able to provide a much better experience for consumers across the board. And in fact, we heard from consumers in the J.D. Power study that over 2/3 of them actually want to have the same brand of voice assistant that they have at home in their next vehicle. And this is for 3 primary benefits that they identified. First, they felt that they would know how to use the feature already, which in today's world with more technologically advanced vehicles, it is sort of a relief sometimes to get into a car and have some part of that technology that you already know how to use. And with a voice assistant, not only do consumers already know how to use those assistants from using them at home, but also, you can imagine that those voice assistants could also help them learn about the other technology in their vehicle as well. The second benefit that they identified was having this consistent experience, whether they were at home or in the car or really anywhere else. And that consistency is important because when we get into the car or the truck, SUV, get into your vehicle, our lives don't dramatically change. We want to be able to do all the same things that we could do at home and still use our voice to do those things. So having that consistent experience is seen as a real benefit. And then third, they felt that their preferences would already be known. And this really speaks to a level of personalization that is of interest to consumers. So things that you've already personalized with your voice assistant at home, to be able to bring those same personalization attributes into the vehicle is seen as a benefit as well. So I thought it would be fun now to take a second and actually see how this works in practice. So I'm going to switch over and show this video. Let's take a look.
Mom, what are you doing? The house is still wide open, and I don't even know where we're going.
Alexa, lock the front door. Alexa, close the garage. Alexa, navigate to Starlight Drive-In.
Getting directions now. Elaine.
Amazon Alexa for every car.
All right, hopefully we're back to the screen. And you can see my slides again. Before I get into this data, I just want to say I absolutely love Elaine. I want to be her when I grow up, right? She's got it all together. She can get her family in the car and get moving without having to worry about all of the things going on in the home because she's used her smart home and Alexa, right, to be able to get everything closed and get on her way and navigate where she's going. But that is not the only thing that consumers want, right? It isn't just about connecting to the smart home, although that is certainly a lovely benefit. And in fact, what we saw from the JD Power data was that consumers really wanted to do a number of things, a variety of things, using their voice in the car. And you can look at this chart and actually, look at them by sort of rank order, but I really think the power of this data is in looking at all of the things that consumers want to be able to do with their voice in the car. Certainly car features are a big piece of this, but it's not the only thing, right? But we do see those car features, things like driver warnings, vehicle controls, and even vehicle education. But beyond that, we see navigation, of course, as an important use case in the vehicle. We also see entertainment show up in the top desires, both musical entertainment as well as reading entertainment, which are things like, yes, a book, but also things like a podcast or even being able to connect to news sources, that sort of thing. And then we see sort of right in the middle of this slide, almost 2/3 actually talking about the desire to be able to use their voice to connect to automotive services. These are things like being able to find and pay for parking. And almost 60% identifying those personal needs as something they want to be able to do with their voice. So that's where we get into things like being able to connect to the smart home, being able to add an item to a grocery list, or even just set a reminder for yourself or connect to your calendar, right? All those things that sort of circulate in your mind as you're driving that you think about, and you want to set that reminder so that you can do so in a way where, again, you don't have to take your hands off the wheel or eyes off the road, which is a great thing to be thinking about when you're driving, for sure. And really, that is the way at Amazon, the way we think about Alexa and how customers want to use her, is thinking about the experience from that customer perspective. And putting ourselves in the customer's shoes and thinking about how can a voice assistant that has that consistency from home to car and car to home really help a customer throughout the day. And so you can imagine, a day where you get up in the morning and you start out and you can ask Alexa, what's the weather like? You jump in your car, check on traffic to find the ideal route. When you get into the office, even if we're not going to offices right now today, you can do it from your home office, or once we're back in offices, asking Alexa to start your meeting, and she'll get you all dialed in so you don't have to look up all the codes. And then at any time during the day, being able to connect to those smart home devices. So if you forgot to, or you think you might have forgotten to close the garage door on your way out, you can simply ask Alexa to do it, or on the way home at the end of the day. Perhaps, as the days have gotten shorter, you forgot to set the timer to turn on lights in the house. You can ask Alexa to go ahead and turn on those lights so you're not coming home to a dark house. But in addition to thinking about this from the customer perspective, we also really wanted to make things easy for automakers and tier 1 suppliers to be able to integrate a voice assistant like Alexa into their vehicles really easily. And so we've done this through our Alexa Auto SDK, or software development kit. And in the SDK, we've actually focused on 4 key areas or domains to make it easy, sort of an out-of-the-box experience that automakers can simply embed into that infotainment system, and it just works really easily across all of the different operating systems. Those 4 areas are, you see in the upper left-hand corner here, entertainment. So being able to connect to all those streaming music services, or being able to actually connect to the music or entertainment features that you have on board in the cabin of your car. The second area is around communication. So being able to make that phone call or join a conference call or take care of text messaging, whether you're zipping down the highway or stuck in traffic. The third key area is around navigation. And this is more than just getting from point A to point B, but also being aware of your surroundings and being able to find local businesses and check on hours of operation, or even connect all the way through and make the phone call to check on to actually speak to that particular company to make sure that they really are open when they said they were. In this time right now, some of those businesses have changed times. So being able to seamlessly make that call from that place of business is also a piece that we've tried to make really easy. And then finally, the fourth key domain is really around car control. So this is, not just car control when you're in the vehicle, but certainly being able to do things without having to take your hands off the wheel and sift through menus by just simply using your voice is, a real benefit, making it really easy for consumers. But also thinking about being able to precondition your car before you get into the car. So imagine you're home during the winter and finishing up your breakfast, and you want to be able to, get the car ready to go. You can simply ask Alexa to defrost the car. She'll defrost the windows. You can ask her to set the cabin temperature perhaps to a nice balmy 80 degrees so that your car's ready to go when you're ready to go. And in addition to that, we make available to all of our customers the tens of thousands of skills that are available through Alexa, also available in the car. We heard that earlier, that consumers across the board wanted to be able to connect to lots of different features. And it's the developers who create all of these skills that really make Alexa so useful and interesting and fun. So this allows customers to be able to connect to things like their favorite music streaming service, their favorite news outlet, those smart home devices, make a dinner reservation when they're on the go, or even order that cup of coffee. And of course, in order to do that preconditioning and checking on your car, you also need to have those connected car skills. And so here is some examples of those connected car skills that are available specifically in Canada, actually, that allow you to check on things like tire pressure or get the car started and ready to go before you're ready to go, even without having to leave your home. So it's great, again, to be connected from home to car and car to home. And in addition to that, we've actually worked with a number of developers in the automotive industry to really help our customers be able to connect to all of those automotive services that I mentioned before, that we heard about from those consumers that wanted it. So here again, just some examples, but everything from things like roadside assistance to navigation that's really easy to do with voice from folks like What 3 Words, to there's a plethora of different parking skills in the different countries around the world that help you find parking, pay for parking, even some that allow you to ask about what the parking rules are on a particular stretch of road to help you know if you can park there. And of course, perhaps one of the most important things when we're driving is being able to find gas and then even pay for gas. And that's actually one of my favorite features with Alexa. We made this announcement back at CES back in January, and now this is available in the US, hopefully coming soon to Canada as well, that across the over 11,000 stations, ExxonMobil stations in the US, you can actually pull up to the gas station and say, Alexa, pay for gas. She will confirm the location, the gas station where you are. You confirm the pump number, and then the payment piece is completely taken care of by Alexa. Which in today's world, that means fewer touches on that touchpad, which can be a real benefit. But really, in any time, it means you don't have to pull out a credit card, you don't have to worry about card skimmers, and when it's particularly cold out in the winter, a little less time standing outside taking care of that payment is great. Right now, you still have to pump the gas yourself. We haven't figured out how to get Alexa to do that yet, but who knows what may come in the future. Now, I've been talking a lot about all of the great utility of these voice assistants and Alexa by utilizing the power of the cloud, right? Making this a great experience. But we know when you're on the road in the car, you don't always have great connectivity to the cloud. And so with our Alexa Auto SDK, we've also made a number of capabilities accessible to our customers, even when you don't have connectivity to the cloud. So a sort of simpler set of functionality available locally. Which means that even if you're in a remote area or an underground parking garage, or even just between cell phone towers, you can still continue to use your voice. Ask Alexa to do many of the things that she can always do for you. And then of course, as soon as you get reconnected to the cloud, she'll seamlessly transition back to the full exposure of the cloud services as well. So for those of you that haven't yet had the experience with Alexa in your car, I wanted to quickly talk about the 3 different ways you can bring Alexa into your vehicle. The first, I'll actually go from right to left on this slide. The first over on the right is through projection, that projection technology that I talked about earlier, where you have an app on your phone and you can project into the infotainment system of your vehicle. The second in the center is bringing an aftermarket device. Here I'm showing the TalkAUTO as an example, where that device actually brings the voice assistant into the vehicle, and then you connect that to your smartphone to be able to connect to the cloud. But then over on the left is what we consider our North Star experience, and that is a fully embedded experience where Alexa is actually embedded into the infotainment system of the vehicle itself. And so with that, I thought it would be great fun to take a look at another video of one of those embedded experiences. So let's take a look.
Alexa, change the interior lights to orange.
Color set to orange.
Alexa, open the garage door.
Okay.
Alexa, play my driving playlist.
Here is your driving playlist from Amazon Music.
Alexa, find me a romantic restaurant.
Here are a few restaurants you might like.
Alexa, navigate me to the first one.
Okay.
All right. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love that power of that engine, and seeing Alexa working with Lamborghini is so fun. That being said, I know that not all of us have a Lamborghini in our garage. I unfortunately do not, maybe someday. So I wanted to also share with you a number of the other brands that are integrating with Alexa. So you can see a sampling up here. The most recent announcement that we made was actually with Lucid. And so Alexa will be embedded into their vehicles coming out in early 2021. But of course, you see lots of other brands here with the vehicles that are already out and on the road today as well. I've been very excited about the GM integration across all 4 of their brands, in part because not only does Alexa work with their new vehicles as somebody buys a brand new car, but they've actually made it available to their customers with a simple over-the-air update to be able to bring Alexa into 2018 model years and newer. For, again, across those 4 brands. So that's really exciting to me and really just great fun, and people are having a great time with it. That being said, we recognize that not everybody is ready to buy a new car or may not have a relatively new vehicle. And there are hundreds of millions of vehicles out on the road today that just simply don't have the software or hardware capabilities to be able to integrate a voice assistant like Alexa. And so, I mentioned before the aftermarket option. So here we're showing, again, the TalkAUTO as an aftermarket option that you can bring into those older vehicles, along with the customer's smartphone. We recently, just a few weeks ago, actually did an update to the Alexa app to now include what we call auto mode. That is a companion visual interface to go along with that voice-first experience of Alexa, creating an even more complete experience in the aftermarket space. So we're really excited about that. And again, it's those glanceable, easily glanceable content that just provides that more complete experience. But of course, you don't have to use an Amazon device itself. There are a number of brands on the aftermarket space that have also integrated with Alexa. You see a few examples here up on the slide, everything from a simple phone charger all the way to a full aftermarket infotainment system that has Alexa built in, and lots of things in between. So lots of different ways to bring a voice assistant like Alexa into your vehicle. Now at Amazon, you may have heard folks say that it remains day one. That really is our mindset. We're always thinking about the future and how we continue to make this experience even better for our customers. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what's coming in both sort of the nearer term and then a little bit farther out in terms of the future of voice in the car. So first, I've mentioned a number of times about the importance of making this experience more conversational. And we've recently released a number of things with the Alexa voice services to make that experience with Alexa more conversational. So some things that I wanted to talk about that are here and coming in the near term include things like name-free invocation. So what this means is rather than having to remember the name of the skill, you can say something like, Alexa, start my car, and Alexa will use the appropriate skill because she understands what it is that you're talking about because you've actually downloaded that skill and activated that skill, connected it to your car, etc. Those kinds of things. So that's going to be possible soon. Another thing is around context carryover. And this is important in thinking about being, again, more natural in that conversation. So if I said to Alexa, how long will it take me to get to Toronto? And let's say I'm already in Canada, because it would take me longer than 36 minutes from here in California. But, she could then respond to me based on the current traffic. It'll take you about 36 minutes to get to Toronto. And then I might think, oh, great, okay, in 36 minutes, that'll be, about lunchtime. And so I can then say, Alexa, what are some good restaurants there? And she will remember that context that I just asked about Toronto. So when I say there, she knows that I mean Toronto. And she'll be able to provide me with a couple of great choices for a good restaurant for lunch. And then the third one is around what we call multi-turn. And this is this idea that if I've asked Alexa to do something, but she doesn't have quite enough information, she can actually ask me a question back, and then I can answer to get her to complete the task that I requested. So I can say, Alexa, could you please unlock the door? And then she could say, oh gosh, well, in your car, you have multiple doors. So it's the front door, the back door, and then I could say, oh, just the front door, the driver's side door, whatever it is. And then she can go ahead and complete that. So again, all of these ideas and technology to help make that experience even more conversational and more natural. Another thing that we've been working on is what we call our voice interoperability initiative. We have over 75 companies, including a number of automotive companies, who've joined this initiative. And the idea here is really to work on the hard problems of bringing together multiple voice assistants on a single device, whether that's a smart speaker or a vehicle, because we really believe that the future of voice is not going to be a winner-take-all. Customers may want to use different voice assistants for different things, and we want to make that experience a great, seamless experience for customers. So excited to be able to provide you that view and be on the lookout for some more announcements in the future about where that's headed. And then I wanted to also give you a view a little bit further out into the future, sort of a more ideal state, if you will, in vehicles. We did this demonstration with Electrobit back in CES, and I just have a short clip of the demo, but it really gives you a sense of how a voice assistant can really help make your life easier and more convenient while you're on the road in the future. You know, everything from being able to check on your smart home to being able to look at different features that different entertainment features that are available, perhaps, you know, front seat or maybe in the back seat, as well as being able to do things like know when you order your morning coffee each day. So with that, let's take a look at that video. Here we go.
Some of the other things that you can also see here is I can actually look at some of my smart home features and the status of my home. Look at how the thermostats are doing, how the lights are doing.
By the way, you typically order coffee about this time. Would you like me to order coffee when we get close?
Yes.
Okay, I will order it when we are close so it's hot when we arrive.
Great.
So in this case, we're using machine learning recommendations based on past behaviors to automate some of the features. So in this case, it was ordering coffee. Now, you'll notice it asked if we should order coffee. When we said yes, it's not going to order it right away. It's actually going to wait until we're about 5 minutes away, so it's hot and ready when we arrive. We're in manual driving mode right now, so the driver has to pay attention to the road. But I'm the passenger. I can actually enjoy some entertainment. So, Alexa, play the Grand Tour on Fire TV.
Getting the Grand Tour from Prime Video.
So I'm able to watch TV, but if the driver looks over and tries to watch TV, you'll see that the system is tracking his gaze, and it'll actually pause the video to warn him to pay attention to the road.
Autonomous drive is available for the next 26 minutes. Do you need help on how to enable it?
Yes.
I was still muted, apologies. So again, that is just a short clip, you know, lots of other things and that I would be happy to share with you afterwards. I can share you the full clip if you want to see more of this demonstration, including moving from autonomous mode or from manual mode to autonomous mode and how that would work, etc. But really, you know, this notion of thinking about all the possibilities in the future, there are other things that you could imagine that Alexa could do as well. Things like being able to optimize your whole day, you know, by saying, Alexa, prepare my route. You know, imagine that your voice assistant could, you know, check your calendar, know everything that you need to get to in that particular day, and know where you are, know where you need to be, get your route, tell you we need to get out and go for the day, remind you to, you know, leave work at a certain time to go pick up the kids from school, you know, whatever it is, right? All of those things just to make your life a little bit easier. It's really like having a personal assistant. Or perhaps you want to help reduce traffic in your city center, you know, at a time when we're ready to maybe open our doors to our fellow citizens again. You know, you can imagine thinking like, oh, well, I actually have a little bit more time in my day than I thought I did, and happy to pick up another person to share my ride with me. And so you could ask Alexa to do something like enter rideshare mode and find people who are along your route headed in the same direction to reduce that traffic. Or, you know, when we think about that time when we have autonomous vehicles that can do the driving for us, there's still so many things that a voice assistant could help with. You know, when you don't have to worry about keeping your hands on the wheel and eyes on the road all the time. But imagine a time where you're heading into work, you have your great electric vehicle, you know, charging away, and you get to work and you need to get it charged. But rather than taking the time to go and do that yourself, you can actually have your vehicle drop you off at the office. And then you can say, Alexa, go charge and park my car. And then Alexa can work with your vehicle, right? This is the idea, to go charge the car and then get it parked so that it's ready at the end of the day so you can head home. so many cool ideas that we have for the future and things that we're excited to come to fruition as time goes on. With that, I'm going to say thank you. My email address is up here. If you have other questions or want to see that, the whole video, the whole demonstration video, we could do that. And with that, I think I'm going to turn things back over to JD, and we can go through some of the questions.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Arianne. That was amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I know for sure that if Alexa was a real person in my house, a long time ago, she would have told both of my young children that, no, I'm not telling you what that animal sound is again today. It's easily the most requested option at all hours of the day in my house.
You must have younger children than I do then.
Yes, yeah. Or at least I hope so.
Yeah, right.
Cool. So we've got a lot of questions. So let me kind of run through a few of the. I'll try to kind of aggregate some of the themes.
Okay.
So obviously, just to lean on the JD Power side of things a little bit, given that I kind of know that IQS data set and where voice rec sits today, it's the highest problem count area. So in your view, what do OEs or a collaboration between organizations like Amazon and OEs, what do you need to do together to improve that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the thing that is important to remember is that we've really tried to make this experience easy, like I said, not just for the customer, but also for the automakers themselves. And so by being able to integrate the software development kit, it makes it really easy for automakers and tier one suppliers to be able to bring all of this great functionality into the vehicle. That being said, I will mention that there are an added set of challenges in the car that you don't have in a place like the home when you think about voice. Because you have a ton of road noise and engine noise and maybe noise with all the people that may be packed in your car. And so the voice assistant has to be able to pick up the right information. And so one of the questions that I get asked sometimes is, what have automakers done in terms of microphones and elimination of some of that noise to help a voice assistant like Alexa really understand what the requests are? And I'll say, I'll use the TalkAUTO example again just for a second. With our device, we've been very thoughtful about all of that road noise and engine noise, et cetera. And so our device comes with an 8 microphone array and far field technology to actually handle that challenge. And what we're seeing from automakers is that more and more, they have multiple array microphones that are becoming available in their newer vehicles. And they're also bringing in active noise cancellation that can actually help isolate voices in the cabin. And for most of the integrations that we have with the automakers, they actually often use both the wait word, where you can say Alexa and then ask for your request, and the push to talk option as well. So that can also help having those different options if it's particularly noisy in your vehicle.
Fair enough. It maybe on the same kind of path. There's a lot of conversation around this idea of human machine interface, or HMI, and at JD Power we're studying that really closely too.
Yes.
Maybe more broadly speaking, what can OEs do to, in general, improve that experience?
Yeah. We've been, again, very thoughtful about this, about that HMI experience for the customer. And the truth is, when we started engaging in this, there really weren't any sort of standard guidelines out there. And so we've been providing guidelines to the automotive industry for when they're going to integrate Alexa into their vehicle. And so some of the guiding principles around the HMI space is having a voice forward experience. The second is around really thinking about how to reduce complexity. And the third is really thinking about that seamless integration. So let me share a little bit more detail about each of those. So when you think about a voice forward experience, this is really being thoughtful about helping drivers complete a task without, as I've said multiple times today, without having to take their eyes off the road or hands off the wheel. And what that means in practice is that the screen, whether it's the smartphone companion app that I mentioned, or the screen in the actual infotainment screen in the vehicle, it should augment the information that Alexa is saying verbally. So the customer shouldn't have to rely on actually taking their eyes off the road to look at that screen to complete a task. But rather that any control that's on the screen should also be available through the customer's voice. So as an example, if the media player that somebody was using gives you the ability to skip forward 30 seconds in a song or in a book or something, you want the customer to be able to just say, Alexa, skip forward, right? So it's a very voice forward experience, like I said, and that visual is more of a companion as opposed to being required to actually get something done. The second one that I mentioned is reducing complexity. And this is really all about using design patterns that a customer is familiar with, both in vehicles and across devices. That's really important also for task-based efforts. We make sure that Alexa responses are really brief and to the point, which minimizes the need for decision making, particularly important in the car. And then, of course, optimizing for simplicity and speed to make that something quick that somebody can do and then get back to focusing very carefully on the road. And then the third area that I mentioned was this seamlessness. And the truth is, we really believe that the best in-vehicle Alexa experience is one that integrates into the system, that infotainment system of the vehicle, as opposed to being duplicative. So we don't try and say, oh, here, Alexa is going to do all these things. Like, let's take FM radio, for example. If you ask Alexa to play the radio, we want her to play the radio that exists in the vehicle and tune to those stations, as opposed to getting a cloud-based, web FM station, right? You want to really be able to have Alexa utilize the functionality that exists in the vehicle and then grab from the cloud the additional information that isn't already available locally in the vehicle. So
cool.
Those are the keys.
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, so in terms of, I think we've all learned to not doubt what Amazon can accomplish and what they can change in just about any space that they want to play. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing in terms of either adoption in the vehicle or even the technology? What kind of issues are keeping you guys up?
Yeah, there are always challenges, right? There's no doubt. We saw that, right? Even from the data that I shared at the beginning, that we have work to do to increase the satisfaction of customers across the board as an industry. So for us in particular, when I think about the automotive space specifically, probably our biggest challenge is the fact that we took the route of this SDK as opposed to a full operating system. Right, an operating system would be easier on our end to develop and then just ask automakers to integrate. But we took this route with the SDK because we really felt like this would allow automakers to customize the experience for their brand, because they can actually tweak and customize the SDK for their customers, but also it really allows for that extension of the experience in the cabin with the voice assistant. And so the challenge around that has been making sure that the SDK and Alexa work with all of the different operating systems that are out there in the automotive space. And that is true every time we make an update to the SDK as well, right? We have to make sure it works on all of those different operating systems, which we do, absolutely. And Alexa does work on all the operating systems, but that is certainly a technological challenge that we continue to work on each time we make an update. But when I think more broadly about challenges around voice and ambient computing, I think, there are three things, and I talked about this a little bit, but maybe I'll just mention them again, because I think it's really important to think about from, across the industry. And that is the challenges around memory, multi-agents, and context. So the first one with memory, we saw in the Electrobit demonstration where Alexa remembered that that the driver ordered coffee at a certain time every year, and how great is that to have that memory, just like a friend would remember something. It's like, oh, let's go grab coffee, to make your life just a little bit simpler is something that we're really working hard on to make that an easy experience. The second one, multi-agents, I talked about the voice interoperability initiative, but I just want to reiterate that this idea of multi-agents, I think, is a real challenge for the industry, but something that's important because, from our perspective, we really want to make sure that whoever the best assistant is to complete a task that the customer has asked for should be the one to go ahead and complete it, whether it's Alexa or the automaker's assistant or another assistant altogether, right? We really want that to just be a great experience for customers. And then finally, I mentioned context. I talked about that a little bit and some of the things that we're working on in the future, and truly in the not too distant future, Alexa will be able to not just remember context from the way I talked about it, if I said Toronto and then asked for restaurants there, that kind of context, but taking it a step further where she'll be able to even transition seamlessly between different skills, asking questions, helping to make choices, to dynamically transition through all of those different skills and the different things people may want to do while preserving the context, so you don't have to repeat things. So those are really sort of the key things that we're working on right now across Alexa voice services, and I'm excited to be able to bring those things to the car as well.
Yeah, awesome. And one last question, and I know that in the tech space, you have to be careful of revealing future state products, and I certainly don't want to get a call from your lawyers. But can you give us kind of a sneak peek of what we might be able to expect in the near future from Alexa?
How about if I tell you a couple of the things that just recently came out that I'm super excited about that will be coming to cars. They're available now as automakers integrate these things into their vehicles. How's that sound? Sure. So that we won't get calls from the lawyers. One of them is around car control zones. So we've added the capability now to be able to, when you're in the car, if you want to turn on a seat heater, you can actually identify if it's the driver's, the passenger seat, a back seat, those kinds of things. So being a little bit more specific in that kind of functionality, I'm very excited about, and that's now available in the SDK. Another one I'm really excited about is what we call multilingual mode. Including in Canada, you can actually now speak to Alexa, for instance, in Canada, in French or English, and she will switch. So whichever language you use to ask her the question, she will then answer in that same language. And this, we actually have this across multiple languages across the globe, but that, in Canada, that's just an example with English and French, and I love that. And then, of course, I mentioned auto mode in the presentation, but I am really excited about that for folks with with older cars that don't have Alexa already built in. Having that companion visual interface just really sort of completes the experience, that voice first experience that I'm really excited about as well.
Great, awesome. Well, thanks very much for your time, Arianne. We certainly really appreciate it. If you could just forward to the next slide, I'll just give everyone on the online a quick.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Let me bring my slides back up and share my screen again.
That's okay. We're still looking at your thank you slide.
Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. Can you see it? Go to the next one. There you go.
Perfect. That's great. Yeah. So
thanks again for having me.
No, it was our pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time. So for everyone still on the line, tomorrow we've got my JD Power colleague, John Cederstrom, and John's done a lot of work in the digital retail space. And I think as we all know, the future and the possibilities of selling cars online is a really hot topic today, specifically in the the context of business shutdowns and lockdowns, and the ability to keep business moving online, certainly in the automotive space, is a really hot topic. So John's done a lot of really interesting research in that zone in particular. So he's going to share some of his findings both in the US and in the Canadian market, but how we might be able to move forward and progress in this digital retail space. So be sure to check back in at 1 p.m. tomorrow. And just before we go, I want to thank one more time our sponsors. And again, in the handout section, you can get some thought leadership pieces from both SimTech Dealer Services and Scotiabank. And I also want to thank our sponsors, BMO, Moto Insight, Safeguard, CIBC, LGM, and IA Dealer Services and IA Auto Finance. And with that, we'll sign off for day 3 of Talk Auto Canada. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks again, Arianne, for that session.